Nope. Don't adjust the color on your screen. And don't worry, if you just open this bottle, there is nothing wrong with your wine. This is the correct color. We are talking about orange wines, skin contact, white wines. And I'm so excited. This is the first time we've ever featured a wine like this in the podcast Wine Club shipment. And we're starting off with a big one. This is a very, very unique wine and one that you are not going to see many places. In fact, this has actually been something that I know Master Sommelier Sir Lucero at Wine Access, he's been trying to get an allocation of this for years, and the stars aligned. Here we are. We not only got an allocation, but we were able to get it for the wine club because I've been begging for a great orange wine to feature for an episode sort of talking about that. So if you want to dive a little deeper into orange wines, into natural wines, which this wine is not a natural wine, but it is an orange wine and it is biodynamically farmed, this is a great place to start. So let's talk about the color of this wine and how this came to be before we get into the actual details of this particular producer, which are really fascinating in and of itself. So the color of this wine, this is an orange wine. So this means this is a skin contact white. What does that mean? So when we talk about the fermentation process, how wines come to be wines, we start with grapes, of course. We've got red grapes and we've got white grapes. When we are making red wine, the way that we make red wine is by pressing the grapes to get the clear juice out of there. And then we macerate it with the skins and sometimes the stems. And that's going to give you all of that color. Without doing that process, that wine would actually still be a little bit clear or pink. It's not until it macerates with the skins that we get all that color. 99% of grape juice is clear when you squeeze it. With white wine, we still press the grapes to get that clear juice out, but we separate it from the skins immediately to allow it to stay white wine. With orange wine, as you may start to be putting the pieces together, we actually let the skins stay with that clear juice for a longer period of time. Sometimes it's a few hours, sometimes it's a few days, sometimes it's as many as a few weeks or months, depending on the producer. In this case, it was not that long, which is why you're getting a really nice gentle orange color, but not a crazy orange color. And that gives you something really, really unique, which is a sort of phenolic-y, sometimes bitter, sometimes savory character. This almost is going to smell like sometimes like a sherry, or it can smell like something very nutty. There's a lot of different things that can result from this process, but orange wine is a really, really fun wine to play around with. In fact, it's made very similarly to rosé, in that rosé is essentially red wine grapes that are pressed and left on the skins for a shorter amount of time than red wine. And that's where you get that rosé color from. It can also be made in a few other ways, but that's the primary way that we do it. And though we are working with white wine, this is also why rosé and orange wine very often are paired together. It's very often why that comparison is made, rosé and orange wine. So just something to think about. The producer, this is where it gets really fun. So you may have noticed on this label that it says Montalcino, right? Montalcino in Italia. And if you have spent any time with our Tuscany episode, you know that Montalcino is really dominated not by white wine, but by red wine, and in particular, Sangiovese. And in Montalcino, you've got Brunello di Montalcino, which is a red wine made from the Sangiovese Grosso grape. This is one of the very, very few white wines that is coming from the region. In fact, this is also why it's labeled as an IGT, because this is not something that can be made under DOC or DOCG standards. Now, if you don't know Italian wine law, I highly recommend getting the Italian wine book so you can get a little bit more information on that, or you can even listen to some of our episodes on Tuscany and Italian wine. But to backtrack, this is a wine that is going to be made outside of the normal standards of Italian white wine. One, because this is a very unique way of making the wine, but two, just because you don't really see a lot of white wine from the region. So let's talk about how this tastes, how you should handle it, and what you should be doing. Oh, I also failed to mention that this is one of the best producers in all of the region. Though they are known for red wine, this is something that they make in tiny quantities. And if you're familiar with Rajpar, this is one of his top 3 producers in the region of Montalcino. That's a really fun fact. Okay, so orange wine. How should you treat orange wine? Well, you should treat it sort of like white wine or rosé. You should serve it in a glass like this, a white wine glass, or something a little bit bigger, not too big. And you definitely want to serve it with a chill. The other thing that you want to do usually is serve this with food, because it has a little bit of this phenolic-y structure because it's taking on some of this bitterness and tannin from the skin. What it often wants is food to go with it. It can be snacky. It doesn't have to be a whole situation. I love cheese with it. I love nuts, almonds, peanuts even. Charcuterie is great, but you definitely want something to snack with this wine. This is actually going to be made from 100% Fiano, which is a grape that you're really going to find not so much in Tuscany, but in the region of Campania. This is not usually how it's made either. Fiano is normally made in a really beautiful light style. It's an easy drinking grape. When I was in Tuscany this summer, I drank a lot of Fiano, but I drank it with your lighter pastas. So your carbonara is not light, but lighter sauce pastas. This is also a wine that when you smell it has this really sort of interesting nutty characteristic on one side and floral characteristic on the other. And that's coming from not only the grape itself, but how this wine was made. And there it is. To me, this is the perfect entry point for orange wine. This is going to give you just enough taste to get a feel for what this category is all about, which I have to say is growing enormously. We're seeing tons of orange wines out there. I think what's so interesting about this wine is one, like I said, the structure of this. You're getting that pinprickliness on there coming from the amount of time that this wine sat with the skins, but then you're also getting this really, really fascinating juxtaposition of savoriness on one side and then these like sort of citrusy floral things on the other. It's just so fun for me. And to me, it reminds me of like a great cheese board where you have like savory and then sweet, savory and then sweet. When you've got like your cheese and your honey, like that to me is what orange wine just excels in. And this is also why it makes such a beautiful wine to pair with a cheese board. It works across the board with lots of different things. It's going to give you structure. There's tons of acidity here, but it's also going to be light enough not to overwhelm things on there. The other thing that I definitely encourage you to try, and it was actually something interestingly that I was turned on to at one of Rajpar's restaurants in Santa Barbara called BBG's, which leans into its Indian cuisine. And most of their wine list is going to be natural wines, a lot of which are orange wines. And the first time I had orange wine with Indian food, spicier, lots of different spices in there. That was the first time that I realized how well orange wine could work with lots of different foods, because this is not only a wine that's super interesting, it's also wine that kind of ebbs and flows with lots of different things going on in any particular dish. And so if you really want to have some fun, order yourself some Indian food. If you can make Indian food at home, even better. But this is a wine that I highly encourage you to dive into with that. This is a wine that you could also leave open for a few days, and it would definitely take on a lot of different characteristics as well. As always, make sure you do put the cork back in it. Make sure you do put it back in the fridge to limit the amount of oxidation. But after that, I mean, I would be happy with this wine after 3 to 5 days and kind of have fun with it to see how it evolves, how it plays, and what other things are going to come out of it. Because this is definitely not a one-note wine. This is a wine that's going to do lots of different things. It's also not going to be for everyone. So this is not what I would call a crowd pleaser by any means. Definitely serve this wine knowing your audience, and definitely keep an open mind if this is your first time trying it. Sit with it, give it a moment, try it at different temperatures, and definitely please try it with different foods. Do not give up on this wine. I think this is a wine that you can learn to love if it's not an immediate thing. It wasn't for me. Orange wine was not something that I was into initially, but then as I learned how to use it, how to drink it, and how to pair it, that's when things started to click, and I was like, oh, this is really actually kind of magical and fun. So definitely keep an open mind. That's kind of what this podcast is all about, is giving you some fan favorites, but then also some things that are going to push you a little bit out of your comfort zone. The wine world is a big one. There's lots of different styles, lots of different types, but I love that we are giving you something that's really, really unique, but from a well-respected producer and from a region that we all know and love already. So cheers to orange wine. I hope you love it, and I hope you love the episode that goes along with it.